What is up, YouTube guys? Jericho426 coming at you with another Marvel Contest of Champions video, and this week, guys, we have had the first 1v1 game mode dropped into Marvel Contest of Champions. Yes, if you haven't heard, it is called Marvel Battlegrounds. And there's been a lot of talk back and forth in the community about, you know, this is the beta of it and whether it's a good beta, whether it's a bad beta. A lot of people discussing the energy cost, which I will say I'm not quite a fan of. There are some bugs running rampant, as there always are in any Kabam game. However, guys, I will say I have had quite a bit of fun playing this game mode. And so today I thought we would cover some of the best defenders within the game, the best ones to choose for your chosen champion. So before we get into it, if you are not already subscribed to the Jericho426 channel, please go ahead and hit that little subscription button along with that little like button on this video. It really does help me out, guys. We are nearing 1,700 subscribers and really appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you so much. And with all that being said, guys, if you do not know how the Battlegrounds mode works, it is essentially kind of like playing a card deck game, or a lot of people have described it as the Pokemon deck of MCOC. Basically, you are going to get an opportunity before you load up to choose 30 champions to bring into battle with you. Now, out of these 30, the game will randomly select a certain number of champions that you can choose from. And then from this random selection, you will make choices as to the final number of champions that you will bring into your battle against another player. And then every time you have a match, there are 3 rounds. Every time you have a round, you get to choose an attacker and a defender. Now, the attackers we are not going to necessarily discuss right now. It might come up later that there are some absolute monster attackers like She-Hulk. She's a really good one that I've noticed. But the fact of the matter is that when you are fighting against the opponent, they will have certain nodes on them. And these nodes will rotate after a certain period of time. We don't know how long yet, just because it's the beta and things could change. But that being said, there may be attackers that are better in the future that aren't so good right now. So attackers are attackers. We know that they are important. There are some that are better than others. You obviously want attackers that have a good amount of utility along with damage. But when it comes to defenders, there's a pretty good, static list that'll happen no matter what the node is. Now, this could change later on if we have some attackers nodes, which there is a slot for that. But so today, guys, we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss the best defenders that I have in mind. Now, some of these you could consider maybe being, hey, this is just like Alliance War. We could use the same kind of defenders. In some cases, you're right. In some cases, I'm going to give you some stuff to think about, because the way that you are scored on your rounds is the amount of damage that the opponent takes, especially a knockout, the amount of damage you take, which decreases the amount of points, and the time it takes to get the opponent down. So weighing in all these factors, let's start in and look at the tech class here, guys. Now, when going through the tech class, the first one, we're going to start on the top line and just work our way down. The first one is Darkhawk. Darkhawk's great because he has a great shield counter that actually redirects damage. So this can kind of take away some of the opponent's health. You want to try to maintain as much health as you can. As well, if he gets pushed that SP2, he does have a phase mechanic, right? Where a lot of your hits will miss. Now, let me say, guys, obviously, when you are planning ahead, you can always find champions that'll be good counters for other champions. However, guys, if the game didn't pull it right and you didn't see who the other, or you didn't pull your champions at the right time, that the opponent was pulling their champions, you might not have the right counter. So that's why I say, there's always going to be a reason to say, there's a counter to this guy. But again, you might not have that right champion. So Darkhawk is number 1. Going down the line, Green Goblin, such an annoying attacker, and he has some very long-winded specials that will do a little bit of chip damage. So again, another great one. Guillotine, 2099. She has her ability to steal power, or I should say drain power, right? So because of this, it's going to be harder to throw your special attacks, but also she does have the ability to regen quite a bit of health, which is going to lengthen the time that it's going to take her down. Not an overall hard opponent, but it's going to make for kind of a frustrating fight when you're trying to power through it. Howard the Duck, same thing with his armor. It makes the fight a little bit more long-winded, and if he does get pushed to a special 2, if you manage to block it, it does a ton of chip damage. Looking now at Hulkbuster Iron Man. This one is actually really great because as you are striking Hulkbuster, he has a chance to place a shock debuff on you just from you striking him. So that's great because it's going to provide a little bit of damage over time and take down the opponent's health. As well, he has unblockable special, so if they aren't quick enough, then they will get hit by the unblockable special. Now, one that might surprise a lot of people is OG Iron Man. Now, OG Iron Man is not hard to fight. However, he does have a really good regen. So if your OG Iron Man is awakened and for some reason you got him at a high sig, maybe it was completely by accident, definitely he can lengthen that fight and make you win just because the opponent either ran out of time or didn't get him down in enough time. So again, he's not the top of my list that I would choose, but definitely OG Iron Man is a viable option. Now, along with Iron Man, obviously one of the most ridiculous defenders in the entire game, Iron Man Infinity War, he's perfect for this kind of thing. He has armor ups that will just make him so tough to take down with damage. He also has the auto block ability. He also has an unblockable special one, and he also has that non-contact basic hits. Iron Man Infinity War is a fantastic defender for these things. And let me just say before we keep on going that there are several fights. I've only done a few full fights, but absolutely I have won several of these. Even if I died, I won because my defender did so much more damage or the opponent ran out of time and they didn't have enough time to finish the match. So having a defender is so vital. Having a good defender is so vital to winning these matches sometimes. Going down the line, again, looking at Mysterio. Mysterio has great abilities to reflect damage. And even if you know how to fight him, you're going to have to kind of back off when that reflection ability is up. So again, it's just going to lengthen the time of that fight. So if you're kind of noticing a thing here, either lengthening the time of the fight or being able to do chip or damage over time, those are what we're looking at. Nimrod is a good one. He's a little bit weird to fight. He has a really easy to deck special 2 in my opinion, but kind of a hard to time deck special 1, and especially if all you've got left, let's say this is the last one, all you've really got left to fight him as a mutant, not going to be a good day for you fighting Nimrod. Overall, not the worst one though. Now, Omega Sentinel, we don't know yet. She's only been a defender in the side quest, so I'm really not sure too much about her. She might be a viable option in the future, but Penny Parker is a great option, guys. Not only does she have a heal block if she is awakened, but her auto shield ability is crazy. She has so many auto block abilities as a defender. It's really quite annoying. So Penny Parker is going to be a great option for this. Someone could maybe convince me of Psycho Man, but I didn't really select him on this one. I did, however, select Punisher 2099. And the reason I went with Punisher 2099 is because his 2 special attacks do so much chip damage against your block. And so because of that, he's just a great champion. He's going to take off a little bit more health than some of the other ones would. Now, looking at the third row down, again, there are some arguments that could be made. Maybe Sentinel, maybe Red Skull for just his block. If somebody forgets and they hit into his block, it's going to do a little bit of damage. And maybe even Ultron with his evade. But overall, I didn't really think anybody on the third row was a viable, great option for a defender. So, but going down, War Machine is a good option because that suppression debuff will trigger through your block on his SP1, and there's so many hits in it, again, it'll do that chip damage. Kind of the same thing looking at Warlock. Warlock is not the best defender for this, but he has the ability to heal block you, which means you're not going to be able to gain back health that you normally would through a lot of other means. But also, his SP1 is kind of hard to dex. It's kind of difficult for a lot of people, and so because of that, he does make a little bit of a viable option. And finally, kind of up there, I think, with Iron Man Infinity War is Yondu. Yondu has that non-contact attack. He can trigger bleed through your block, and so Yondu and Iron Man Infinity War, I think, are probably the 2 best options. If I had to go with a third, I would say it would definitely be Hulkbuster Iron Man on that one. Now moving on to the Mutant class. Mutant class actually has quite a few options, some of which you may have not considered as good defenders when taking them into this, and a bunch of them you probably have. Obviously the first one being Apocalypse. Apocalypse has some really hard-hitting special attacks and very difficult to dex special attacks. Not to mention, if you're taking the wrong champion in, he can actually penetrate through your block. So Apocalypse is a great option as a defender, as is Bishop. Bishop, with his ability to gain the prowess whenever he's blocking, but also as you're doing energy damage, plus the ability to have unblockable special attacks, his ability to incinerate the opponent if he uses the special one, he's just a really good option for another defender. Now, Colossus is not hard to fight. He is a good option in the sense that he can build those armor up buffs and he can lengthen the time of the fight. He's probably not the best defender in this case, but because of those armor up buffs, he's better than others because he can lengthen the time of the fight. Domino is one of the best, I think. I've had more issues fighting Domino in the Battlegrounds than other champions, just because she has those non-contact pistol attacks, and she does have a little unpredictable evade that'll happen every once in a while. So Domino plays a really good role as a defender, as does Emma Frost. Again, if you know how to fight Emma Frost, if you've got the right champion for her, it's great. She's super easy, but if you don't, that diamond form is quite annoying. Moving on into Havoc. Havoc is a great defender for this. Again, he's got non-contact attacks. He's got some difficult to dex special ones. He can go unblockable, as well as if you don't have an armor up on your champion, then he can start doing that damage with those charge buildups, right? So again, great defender here. Iceman is a good defender if he is awakened. In this case, he will go ahead and put that frostbite on the opponent as soon as the match starts. So it'll start dealing damage just at the very beginning without even having to make contact with you. So that is a great option, as is Kitty Pryde. Now, Kitty Pryde is a little bit of a weird one. She does take some ramp up as a defender, just like she would as an attacker, but it makes it a little bit difficult to intercept her when she is dashing in with that phase ability. So again, maybe not the best on here, but the other side of that too is that her incinerates do have an opportunity to trigger through block too. So definitely got to watch out for Kitty Pryde. The Magnetos, the Mag Twins, again, some arguments could be made for them. I do think Magneto, Red Mags especially, has a difficult, for some reason, to parry basic attack, especially his dash attack. But again, I don't think they quite fall into the right specs for this kind of a list. Mr. Sinister, great. Again, if you have someone that throws a lot of critical attacks, then he's just going to keep on regening health, which is going to be lengthening the time of that fight. Another great option is Nightcrawler. Again, he has one of the most frustrating and hard to avoid dexes or evades in the game. Gonna make it really good. He also has a fairly hard-hitting basic attack and special attack when he gets his hands on you. So definitely gotta watch out for Nightcrawler as a defender. Omega Red, I actually won a round with Omega Red because he just did so much damage as the opponent was close to him. Again, his death spores that they latch on, and when they get to 10, they're generating damage. He's just a great defender. When looking at Professor X, he's not necessarily one of the hardest people to play against, but with his falter ability. With his falter ability, it does make him a little bit harder to fight and does lengthen the time of the fight. Plus, he can go unblockable with that special one, which might catch a couple people off guard. And is at the same time, again, while not dishing out a whole lot of damage and hard to fight, Sabretooth is another one that can gain so much regen if you don't have a heal block on him. It'll really push out the time of that fight. Sauron, while not one of my favorite attackers, is absolutely a great defender. His ability to place bleeds through block, his ability to go unblockable. I keep on doing that. Unblockable, very easy. Sauron is going to be a great option as well. Toad, if you're backing him to the corner, he's got his secretions on. He's going to be placing poisons on the opponent. So again, these two came out the same month, and they are kind of really annoying defenders. Toad being, I think, a little bit of a better defender than Sauron. And finally, Weapon X Wolverine. Wolverine himself, maybe just for his regen, but I don't think it's powerful enough, to really be too much of a nuisance. But Weapon X is absolutely one of the toughest champions to fight in the game, in my opinion. And that being the case, if you come up with somebody who's got him on the team, you might want to ban him outright just as soon as you see that in the roster. So moving on to the skill class. Now with the skill class, there are quite a few on here, and a lot of them actually have to do with their ability to shrug off debuffs. Someone like Agent Venom is very easy to shrug off debuffs. Plus, he's got a little bit of an annoying special one. Not the worst, but definitely can lengthen time of that fight. If you know how to fight if you know how to fight Black Panther Civil War, it might not be too much of a chore, but waiting on those armor up buffs to go away so that you can start parrying the opponent again can lengthen that time of the fight. Black Widow I've had some new respect for. She actually decreases both defensive and offensive ability accuracy, and this will again not make you really able to parry very reliably. Plus she has a little bit of evade, and so she can be a really annoying defender sometimes. Black Widow Deadly Origins again might go into the category, but right now I just don't see her as that tough to really get against. But Blade, again, he can heal himself, and he has a little bit of an annoying special 1 and special 2, and plus he's got kind of a long range heavy attack if you don't catch it in time. I did put him on the list, but again, he could be kind of the same realm as Black Widow Deadly Origins, where she is tough, but she may not be the best on the team. So looking at Crossbones is a nightmare sometimes to fight against, no matter what you are playing. But again, when you look at his ability to shrug off, plus if you accidentally push him to that special 2, that shotgun blast, those 3 shotgun blasts are very hard to dex and will do a lot of damage. Daredevil, Hell's Kitchen. The OG Daredevil, not too bad to fight against, but Daredevil Hell's Kitchen can be annoying just because he does shrug off debuffs quite a bit. And so just because of that fact alone, it makes him a little bit of a better defender and a little bit more annoying. Plus he's got some long-winded special attacks that aren't hard to dex, but they're so long, again, it's going to push out the time of that fight. Looking at Elsa Bloodstone, again, her attacks are a little bit harder to dex, missing those pistol shots and those shotgun shots. Plus, she does have a little bit of an evade on her, where she will do damage to you. So, again, watch out for Elsa Bloodstone. Don't underestimate her, because she can obliterate you. As well as Falcon. Now, Falcon is not very hard to play against, but his special 1 does do a lot of chip damage, and if for some reason he does hit you, it will cause some bleed damage. So you just got to watch out for that. You shouldn't notice too much from the decrease to defensive ability accuracy if he does lock on, but that special 1 can be a little annoying in these type of matchups. One of the best ones, I think, is Hitmonkey, because Hitmonkey, you really don't want to knock him down when you are playing against him, because he can go unstoppable and unblockable. So you don't want to knock down Hitmonkey, plus he can evade. So this can be a little bit of an annoying fight. I think he is a really good defender in the game in general. So again, another great option, as is Jabari Panther. And Jabari Panther, again, with her ability to cleanse those parries, those stuns that go on her, and the ability to lay in bleed, makes her a really good option for this. Along with the Wakanda theme, looking at Killmonger, if he is awakened. If Killmonger is awakened, he gains power very, very fast. Plus, he has that reverb and can deal back some damage. So definitely watch out for Killmonger. But the 2 of the worst ones in the entire game, not even just out of the skill champions, are definitely Kingpin and Korg. Kingpin is just a nightmare sometimes to play against, and so is Korg. He can go unstoppable, unblockable. That special 1 is just horrible to dex, especially if it's unblockable. And so 2 of your best options. And if you're looking at the opponent's roster, definitely these are 2 guys I would ban almost every single time. Looking next at Mole Man, again, not a terrible champion to fight against, but if you forget and you hit into his block, you can get in trouble. Probably the best defender in, many might argue, and I might even argue, in the entire game is Nick Fury. And Nick Fury actually won an entire round for me. The guy didn't even get through Nick Fury. With his ability to go unblockable, and then once he hits real Nick Fury, if he's awakened, I should say, this is really if he's awakened, to just shrug off everything is really annoying and makes him one of the hardest champions to fight. And so if you've got a Nick Fury, definitely you're going to want to bring him in for some defense. Looking at the Punisher is another one who, again, not too hard to fight, but his awakened ability at the very end, whenever he can go, basically unkillable for a few seconds, will lengthen the time of that fight. Plus, his special attacks are very hard to defend against, or dex against, I should say, and they can hit pretty hard into your block. Next, we have Stealth Suit Spidey. Stealth Suit Spidey is very difficult to defend against sometimes because he does have non-contact attacks, which is going to make parrying him, I should say, a little bit more difficult. Squirrel Girl is also great for this mode as a defender because she can trigger bleed through block, which is going to provide that damage. Even if they are playing really well, it is going to provide damage through their block. So she's a great option for Battlegrounds. And finally, Taskmaster, again, not too hard to fight against, but when he starts to build up his immunities, he becomes a little bit more annoying. He becomes to where you can't really parry him, and it gets harder to dex and all this kind of stuff. So Taskmaster could be another viable option, although probably not top of the list for my skill list. Next, we are going to look at the Science Champions. Now, with the Science Champions, a case could probably be made for the regular Abomination, the OG Abomination, but definitely one of the meaner defenders is going to be Immortal Abomination because he can place so much poison damage on you without even having to really do anything to you. So he's going to be one that usually I will ban, but not all the time if you've got like a She-Hulk or someone who's poison immune. Ant-Man, if you have an Awakened Ant-Man, God, he is so freaking annoying. He is one of the most annoying opponents to fight in the entire game, and if it's a really high level Ant-Man, you will probably not get him down in the 2 minutes it takes to finish this fight because he glances almost every single attack, and it is so annoying to fight him. So he is actually going to be a really great option for a defender. Looking down at Electro, again, if he's awakened, he will do damage back to the opponent. This is going to be really annoying and is going to chip down on you while you're trying to do your thing. Immortal Hulk, again, awakened. He gets that region at the very end. And he goes immortal at the very end. He goes unblockable at the very end. That's going to be a great option as a defender, even just for some last minute hits to deal some damage. And I also find Hulk Ragnarok to be one of the more annoying defenders in the game as well. He's got that smash ability. He can go unstoppable, as well as once he hits like the 100 on the crowd meter, you just don't want to be near him. So he's another one that can be a little annoying. And if you don't have someone who is Incinerate immune, or if you've only got like energy champions left and you go up against Johnny Storm, you're just totally going to get obliterated by all the incinerates that end up on you. So definitely don't want to fight against Human Torch if you don't have the right setup. Invisible Woman is, again, not terribly hard to defeat, but with her immortality ability at the very beginning there and her ability to keep on reapplying that to herself makes her super annoying. And so again, pretty good defender for pushing out the time length. Joe Fixit I have just because of his SP1. Again, does a little bit of chip damage, and it does take a little bit longer in the fight. So again, not horrible, but could be a viable option, somebody to consider. And same thing with Luke Cage. Again, one of the easiest people to defeat in the entire game. But if he is awakened and he goes, if he gets his, not unstoppable, but his impervious buff or whatever it is, I can't remember the name right now, but his impervious buff where he can't be damaged at all, and if he's high enough sig and it keeps on recycling throughout that 2 minutes, it's gonna lengthen that fight. So MODOK, holy cow, probably again another great option for Battlegrounds. Such an annoying defender. I think if you've played a MODOK at all, you know that auto block ability is just ridiculously frustrating. So definitely another champion to consider banning outright, depending on what the other person's roster looks like. Mr. Fantastic, again, not horrible, but he's got those unblockable special attacks, which can get you in trouble, and he does have an evade, which can, again, get you into trouble. So somebody else to look out for. Quake, her, if she even places one of those little Quake charges on you, and then it detonates, you're just going to be losing health left and right. And she doesn't really have to do much. Even if she just touches you with a special one, if she touches your block, it'll trigger the block. So, again, I hate fighting Quake, and she's going to be great for this kind of a mode. Somebody could probably argue Rhino with his ability to go unstoppable and unblockable as he dashes in, but I really didn't include him in this. I didn't think he was quite worthy of it. But Spider-Gwen is an example of a champion who's really good. Again, she does have an evade, and she hits really hard with basic attacks, and so even hitting once or twice, getting hit once or twice by Spider-Gwen could mean you're going to lose that whole round compared to the opponent. Spider-Ham, again, the ability to place those power stings or those porker poppers on the opponent. Again, another great ability, and he has an unblockable, and he has an evade, so you gotta watch out for him. One of the most annoying evaders in the entire game, OG Spider-Man. Again, gonna lengthen that fight, gonna make it really frustrating and really hard to keep up and get him down within the timer. He's gonna be a great option for that. Thing, again, his ability, once he hits 15 rock stacks, to go unblockable and also unstoppable, gonna make him really hard. Plus, he's got some fury build up, so this is gonna make him one of the better defenders, maybe not the best, but one of the better defenders if you don't have a way to manage his rock stacks or if you don't have a way to slow him. Void, while a little bit out of date, and he's kind of easy to play around, or to play around his mechanic. If for some reason you do get backed up on hitting your 10 hit combos and you're not getting those stacks of his debuffs off you, you're going to start losing power, or losing health, I should say, very, very quickly. So he's another good option. Wasp is a good option if she is awakened. She hits very hard, but as her awakened ability, she has that ability to evade the opponent and place a shock debuff on them. So again, and it just seems to happen all the time. You know, it's I don't know what the percentage is off the top of my head for her to do that, but it just seems to happen all the time whenever I am playing against her. So definitely watch out for Wasp. And finally, I did include Yellow Jacket, and Yellow Jacket because if you are close to Yellow Jacket when you're playing him, it's very hard to dex that SP1, in my opinion. And if it does hit you, it seems to do a lot of block penetration. So again, another one to look out for is Yellow Jacket, but maybe not the worst defender. Moving on to the Mystic class, this one doesn't have quite as many as some of the other classes, but still some pretty good defenders in here. Again, arguments can be made for a lot of people that I'm not going to cover, but these are the ones that I really felt were good to highlight. Dr. Doom, obviously, unblockable special 1, really long-winded and damaging special 2. He's just got a lot going for him. We all know Doom is a monster, so as an attacker or a defender, but he's a great defender here. Dormammu, especially awakened, ridiculous defender to have to defend. I hate fighting Dormammu. I love to avoid Dormammu whenever I can in the game, which sounds ridiculous because he's not that great of an attacker. Well, he kind of is, but he's not that great in a lot of cases. But really, really awesome defender. Dragon Man. So one of the fights that happened was I had my Dragon Man, and somebody took Corvus against him and ended up losing. And I knew it was going to happen too, because if you don't know, whenever you apply an armor break to Dragon Man, you will take passive damage as long as that armor break is applied. And so every time he parried Dragon Man, he just took more and more damage. You put more armor breaks on him and just put more and more damage on himself. So that was actually really awesome to see. So Dragon Man can be a really good option. Maybe not always, but he does got a power gain as well. If he backs you in the corner, he does more damage. And that ability to do damage off the armor block was actually pretty cool. I actually wish I wish you could go in and spectate the fight. I'd love to watch that fight. Ebony Maw is another one. Non-contact attacks. He's got a falter. Super annoying to fight against. Juggernaut, if he's awakened, his ability to go unstoppable over and over and over. If you don't have a way to defend against it, it's going to lengthen that fight. It's going to be really annoying. Now, Longshot is going to be one that if you don't have someone who's Incinerate immune, you can get into really big trouble against Longshot, because if he has if he has his 5 stack and he's in his whatever it's called, his luck ability, and then he fires off a special 2, you're gonna take Incinerate damage, and there's nothing you can do about it. So he wouldn't be my first option, but definitely if they didn't have a single Incinerate immune champion left, and I'm looking at their roster and it's like the last 5 is like, yeah, let's put in Longshot. He might be able to do something if he's pushed to that SP2. Magic, again, great when she enters Limbo, and she's going to do that passive damage over time. Looking at Man-Thing, he has the poison that he can easily apply. This is one that, not nearly as bad as Immortal Abomination, but still going to be good for doing a little bit of damage. Now, Mangog is an interesting one, and some people might think, why is Mangog being included in this list? And the reason is because if you don't want to build up his charges so he becomes unblockable and unstoppable in his SP2, you really have to end with 4-hit combos or less. You don't want to do a 5-hit combo because it'll build his rage charges up. So again, it just pushes up the fight a little bit more. So he could be a good option. I haven't experimented with him too much, but he could be a good option. But who's really a good option in the Mystic class is of course Mephisto. And Mephisto is just crazy. He's got his energy gain. He's got his ability to put the kind of the fate seal at the very beginning, so you can't really gain buffs, and then he's got the ability to form his little ring of flame around him. If you don't have an Incinerate immune champion, you're going to get into trouble. So he and plus he's got a heck of a regen. He is a great defender for this mode. Mojo is also great just because he can place that passive degeneration on the opponent, which kind of just hits you out of nowhere. You never expect, and all of a sudden you start degenerating. At the same time, Mordo, again, one of the most annoying defenders in the entire game, one of the best defenders for Battlegrounds just because you can't parry him. And you have to heavy him if he doesn't hit you when you're trying to heavy attack him. So that can be annoying. And he doesn't like to dash in a whole lot, so he's kind of hard to intercept. So really annoying. Morningstar, again, great because whenever you strike her, if you don't have a bleed immune champion, she is going to bleed you just from striking her. So great option there. Scarlet Witch OG, again, really great for this mode because she does have the ability to place that poison on you, which you can't, unless you nullify it or something like that, or unless you have a poison immune champion, you can't get away from. And finally, last on the list here, again, there's some arguments that can be made, but I'm definitely going to go with Tigra. Again, really hard to defend against Tigra. If she gets going on you, she backs you in a corner, you're in a lot of trouble. And actually, my Tigra did lose in one of my matches, but she did take them down to less than a quarter of their health. So Tigra is great. Finally, guys, coming up on this, looking at the Cosmic Champs, I think there are less Cosmic Champs than any other class that I would bring into it. But absolutely one of the best ones is going to be Annihilus. Super, super, super annoying to defend against Annihilus. So he's going to be a very great option in any fight. Corvus, just because he can crit through, or he can strike through block, and he can crit through block. So he's going to be able to do some chip damage to Corvus. Plus he does have that unblockable special too. Surprisingly, I never thought I would include Groot on a list of best anything. But in this case, I do think he's a great defender because he does shrug off debuffs as well as he can take a lot of damage. I mean, he might not do a whole lot of damage back, but he can take a lot of damage. With a high enough Groot, if some crazy person out there has rank 3'd their Groot, good luck, finish him off in 2 minutes. I don't know if you could do it. You probably could, but I don't know. Next up, we have Hela. Hela, again, has that same ability as Punisher, where she can go immortal at the very end of the fight. As well, she has a little bit of annoying special attacks, so they're not too hard to dex, but they can be a little annoying. But especially that last immortality at the end is hard. Hercules, whether he's awakened or not, but especially if he's awakened, is going to just be horrible to fight against in this, as he can be stun immune when he has his strengths up, as well as he can go completely immortal and unblockable at the very end of the fight. Again, not going to want to go up against Hercules. In fact, every single fight I've had, they have banned my Hercules. So Hyperion, great option. We all know, just because of his power gain, he can be one of the more annoying defenders to fight against. King Groot, again, kind of along the same lines of Groot. He's pretty tanky, and so he can take a lot of damage. Not overly hard to fight, but he can take a lot of damage. Null, I included Null on this because he has one of the more difficult and annoying special 1 attacks, because it just comes up from underneath you. It's pretty hard to dex, in my opinion. And plus, with all the armor breaks, I think that Null, not the best defender, but just because of that special 1 is pretty good. Nova, non-contact attacks, he can be one of the harder guys to fight against. Phoenix, again, kind of like Groot, never thought I'd include her on a best of list, but Phoenix, just because at the very end of the fight, she will regen health, plus she does have the ability to ramp up her power really fast, so Phoenix can be a little bit of an annoying defender. Cersei. Now, Cersei, I actually got my butt kicked by Cersei last week in some kind of a quest line, just because I forgot that if she's far away, her special attacks go unblockable. And so she was far enough away and her special attack went unblockable, and it killed me. So definitely Cersei is not a bad option for this, but also a pretty good option for an attacker, I think. Terrax, even though I don't think I included him on my own defender list in my game, definitely Terrax, if he's awakened with that rock field that can be generated in the beginning, is a great defender for this, doing that chip damage to people. He is a great option as a defender. Venom, he's an annoying defender. He has a bleed, he has an armor break, he's got that special 2, which if you get pushed to it, oh my gosh, it's just, in my opinion, harder to dex. So again, Venom's another good, not great option. And finally, coming up at the very end of this, we have Vision Arcus. And again, if you don't have an Armor Break immune champion or a Frostbite immune champion, those Armor Breaks and those Frostbite are going to start to do damage on you. But as well, even if you get away from them, it's just going to prolong the fight. So, guys, this video went on a little long, a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but I hope it was good info for you. I hope it did give you some stuff to think about. Did I miss somebody? Do you think you've got another great defender for Battlegrounds? Again, this is our first round of Battlegrounds beta, and then we've got another one coming up later, and then finally it'll be released and hopefully be not so buggy. But I am really enjoying Battlegrounds. Let me know if you are liking it as well. Guys, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I will catch you on the flip side.